9 a.m, heading out of Dwelling Up. 205 kilometres until Kalamunda and the end of the Bibbulmun track. I've packed 7 days of food, but I'm planning a very ambitious 6 days. Food-wise, I was unfortunately quite disappointed in Dwelling Up. I actually ended up having one of my breakfasts, just oats and sausage and a milk powder for dinner last night because I just couldn't bring myself to walk down to the pub and pay $28 for something I knew was going to be terrible. It's a little depressing sometimes, but it's okay. It's all part of it. So far this morning it's been very easy cruisy terrain following this old railway track, which is actually still used for a tourist operated steam locomotive, which is kind of cool. I'm quite thankful that it's cruisy walking this morning because I really want to put the kilometres away and get to the first campsite of Chudora as fast as possible to leave me with plenty of time to tackle Mount Wells at the end. Some hikers I talked to yesterday suggested just walking on the railway track here instead of the path because it's less undulating, but the purist in me says no, must follow the trail. One hour in, 5 kilometres down. The most difficult thing so far this morning has been keeping the pancakes down. It's always a bit of a difficult conundrum, the old need to eat more calories, but the things which have more calories in them tend to be a bit heavy in the stomach. Feeling a little bit negative about today. Sort of got it in my head that today's going to be one of the hardest days on trail. It's about 35 k's and there's a steep hill at the end and the pack's the heaviest that it's going to be the whole trip today. And leaving town for queasy because I had 3 milkshakes in the past 2 days and pancakes and all the stuff to increase calories, which just makes me feel sick. Well, obviously the train doesn't go along these tracks anymore. Three and a half hours in, less than 2 k's to Chudora, which was a total of 19 k's. So been moving pretty fast this morning despite not really feeling all that great today. It's a bit of a down day, I guess, but I do actually like to move pretty fast on the down days. Something is for walkers. Whatever was here, it's not here. Makes me sad. Made it into a Chadora campsite, refueled with a nice wrap, and heading on my way. Mount Wells. Just walked 400 metres and then realised I forgot to get more water, so that's a bit annoying. I've got 800 metres to the day. There were a few hikers back at the previous shelter, as well as a bit of an unusual man. I think he might have been one of these sort of homeless folk that wanders up and down the track, just given his attire, which I can only really describe as rags. I mean, he was nice enough, spoke well, but it's kind of nice knowing that given how many people are now on the track, that it's likely there will be more people at the shelters and less likely to end up spending the night at a campsite with someone that's just a little bit different, let's say. Started feeling pretty queasy this afternoon, just feeling nauseous, like I want to bring up my food, which would be a very bad idea. It's been a bit of a hard slog of a day. Alrighty, 30 kilometres in, we're starting the ascent. It's a bit under 300 metres elevation. It's really not a daunting amount, it's just that I've done 30 k's and I'm feeling a bit queasy. So far this is just a low to moderate gradient. It's consistent, it's totally fine. Less than something like Rockhill, I'd say, or lofty. I spent the last 5k's or so sort of planning out how I'd approach this, so when I'd take breaks, when I'd eat what. But thinking now I might just power all the way up it, because if I stop, I think the fatigue's going to catch up with me. Whereas if I just keep going, it's only another 2k's, should be able to push through it. I'm coming up to the last kilometre here, and as predicted it's been a pretty challenging day, but I'm pretty happy I've got through it. Look, a pretty flower. Isn't that nice? Isn't that a nice thing? 200 metres from camp. So this is Mount Wells campsite. It's the only shelter on the Bib, I think, that isn't of very similar design to all the others. It's I think it's an old fire watchtower or radio tower house that's been converted into a shelter, and surprisingly no one else is here, but it is only 4:30. So it's come up 6 o'clock, no one else has arrived here at Mount Wells, so I'm setting myself up in this little room, which is fairly cozy, and yeah, it should be pretty secure in here. Unfortunately it can be locked from the outside, but someone has already preemptively put a rock in here since the door swings open, so that can be used as a makeshift lock. Lock is in place. When it was locked, actually most secure shelter on site, I would say. Hopefully there aren't mice that come in through the ceilings. That's the shelter down there. I'm just standing in the fire lookout station. So that was a very interesting night last night. I went to bed about 6 p.m. and set myself up in a little room as I showed. And about 10 minutes later I heard some voices and some people come into the shelter area, not into my room. And they were just talking to each other and talking about signing the logbook and this kind of thing. And they sort of called out if there was anyone there, and I said hi, and I didn't really get a response. And then they left, and I saw through the sort of crack in the window that there was a lady taking a photo of the shelter. I thought, oh, well, that was weird. 6:10 at night, day walkers coming up here. What's that all about? Checked the logbook this morning, and I'll put the picture up. It was one of the guys running the entire Bibbulmun track. I think he's doing it in 10 days, and he was passing through. Must have been with his crew. So that's kind of funny. That's I mentioned this back in one of my earlier videos, but I had some of the details wrong. I think there's a few guys doing it. They're doing it in different directions. If I was keeping up to date with this properly, I would have realised that he was about to pass through where I was there, since I have a live tracker on a website. But I mean, that's cool. Well, also a bit unfortunate that I missed out on seeing him come through by 10 minutes, and instead I got a bit of a weird experience and didn't have a great sleep last night. It took me quite a few hours to get to sleep, probably because I was sleeping in this creepy house where I was just using a rock as a form of a lock on the door. Even though, to be fair, it's the most secure setup I've had on the track outside of track towns, but it just doesn't really feel that way. The other thing that didn't help with it at all was that there's a constant drone of and thudding of mining operations taking place somewhere nearby. I think there's an open pit mine. It's not a consistent noise either. I just took a pretty long break, had iced coffee and some peanut butter, and I was struggling to get it down. The nausea's sort of come back, sort of just off and on, having a bit of trouble getting food in, but at the same time feeling quite fatigued. And so I need to kind of find this balance at the moment, because I really don't want to get too nauseous and end up throwing up, because that, to me, could be a game over situation in terms of I don't think it's very safe to be hiking. If I start doing that, you lose a lot of electrolytes and a lot of fluid and calories, of course, if you start throwing up, and it's just could really be a negative spiral. So look, I think I'll be alright to get to White Horse Hills this morning. It's only another 7 k's, but hopefully I can get some lunch in there and I'll feel better and be able to continue to drink it. We'll see. The climb up to the top of White Horse Hill campsite here is actually steeper than Mount Wells, but it's about half the total elevation from the base of it, at least. Well, at least it's a pretty nice view. It's a bit tempting to have lunch up here, but I think I'll push on the next 2k's to the shelter. It's just a bit... Just past some nice hikers just before, I will say. It always alters my mood a little bit to have a chat with nice people. I'm walking along these paths when having a little bit of a down day, to be honest. The hikers I passed were telling me they were at a campsite a few days ago and some people rocked up around midnight. I mean, I will say that, like, camping in some of these places by myself with the prospect of people rocking up at midnight is not comforting, to be honest. I think I forgot to film the White Horse Hills campsite again, but nothing too exciting. Had some lunch, moving on. A bit more elevation over the next few kilometres, I think, and then I believe it flattens out. I'll be able to cruise into Grimmer Creek, but till then, we've got about 400 metres worth of elevation. Steep and rocky. There's smoke billowing up over there. It was interesting. The way that smoke's coming up, I'm just not quite sure what that would be, to be honest. It's pretty warm out here today. Maybe I should have checked the weather. Not sure what it is. 14k's left, only brought a bit under 2 litres of water. This section, which ordinarily I think would be plenty, but there is a bit of a climb coming up, so I hope I haven't underestimated the water requirements, but I'm sure I'll be fine. Note to future self, do not walk through ant nests. They will crawl up and over your shoes and get under your gaiters and be with you for the next half an hour. So we've got up over the main hill now. So just another 9k's of undulating terrain. Not sure what that big rock is over there if it comes through the camera. Like that hill over there is called Bonery Hill, and there is a side track to it. It'd be nice to go and do it, but I'm a bit worried I don't even have enough water to get to camp, so I'm definitely not going to go do that. As nice as that would be, I'm also on a 30k day today. It's one of the unfortunate things moving faster, but that's the choice I've made. It's about 7k's until camp. I've only got about 500 mils left in the water bladder, and I've got about another 300 mils in my bottle of water here, so I'm just mixing up a Barocca and I'm going to fill up the water bottle in a puddle, just as a bit of emergency water. I can always boil it and filter it through a sock if I am desperate, but I think I should be fine for 7 k's. But I don't like running it this close to the line on a hot day. It's a bit silly. On the face of it, that water doesn't look very appetizing. But once it's in the bottle, that water actually looks a lot clearer than water I've had in a rainwater tank. Of course, I'd still definitely boil it and filter it through a sock first, but I don't think I'll need it. It's just a bit of a backup. Sometimes I think it's just about taking the necessary precautions that make you feel a bit more secure and confident about what it is that you're doing. You know? Now, the trick here is going to be to remember to tip that water out when I get to camp. Only a few kilometres out from Briga, feeling a lot better than I thought I would. Did not start off today feeling all that good with a bit of a rough sleep, but coming in quite a bit of energy here. Hi. So the last clip you saw was of me walking into Gringa Creek. You might be thinking, well, this doesn't look like a Bibbulmun track shelter. And you'd be correct. I'm currently in a hotel room in Bibbulmun. Unfortunately, when I got into Gringa Creek and I made my dinner didn't stay down, and a significant amount of vomiting ensued and continued for the next few hours, and basically I brought all food and liquid that I had up, and it was pretty clear that I was sick with something, and being in a remote area at risk of dehydration after having walked 30 k's for the day, not being able to keep food down, I decided to call 000 and was extracted and went to Bibbulmun Hospital, and got discharged the day after, which is today. So it's a disappointing outcome. I'm fine. It's probably just a stomach bug. I'm sure I'll get over it over the next few days. But it is an unfortunate ending, because I had walked 850 or so kilometres over 37 days, and I had another 140 or so to go, and I had an ambitious timeline of doing that in 4 to 5 days. Yesterday, when I was walking towards Gringa Creek, I actually felt a little bit emotional for the first time on this entire trip, because I had the realization that I was going to finish it. I was only 4 more days and then I would have walked the full 1,000 kilometers. Unfortunately, a few hours later, when I had called the ambulance and was waiting for them to arrive, I had the second feeling of being a bit emotional on the trip, which was the realization that I wasn't going to finish it.